Hi, before we start with the main video, I would like to thank you, Practitest, for being the main sponsor of today's video. Practitest has the mission to provide a platform to help organizations to manage their software development and deployment process with transparency and confidence. Their products will improve collaboration, at the same time reduce the risk of issues and accelerating business value for your customers. Practitest offers a wide range of test management tools to bring your entire QA operation into one shared space. As you can see on the central dashboard of Practitest, you can take a look at your requirements, the test library, test runs and issues. Everything is in one place, from dashboard, taskboard, reports and project history. In the requirements section, you can find all the described requirements in your project. In the test library section, you can find all your test cases that you have created with name, status, past run status and last run. In the issues section, you can find all the issues that have been filed into Practitest, all the bugs that you have found during your testing activities. On the detailed side, you can find general information, traceability and the history of the product itself. On the report section, you can generate reports that you can use in order to send your stakeholders. You can download it via Excel file, or you can also take a look at the PDF report. You get all the detailed reports that you needed for your direct reports in order to have a great test management solution in place. Next to the report center, you can also go to the dashboards and see all the things that you need to know as a test manager to overcome your product status. If you want to find out more about Practitest, go to their website practitest.com and check out their great products. Thank you again to Practitest for being the sponsor for today's video and to support to our testing community. And now back to the main video.
Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Software Testing. My name is Knott and I'm happy that you're here. And today's video is all about accessibility testing and why it's important. Have you ever asked yourself how it would be to not be able to listen into anything? Or how it would be to have no visibility, so close your eyes and you cannot see anything, or anything similar? I think not, right? We cannot think about how critical this would be to our daily lives, but there are billions of people on this planet who suffer of some sort of accessibility or impairments, and we should know about it, and in the software testing community, but also in the development or tech community, we should handle this situation because I think it's important, and there's a lot of potential also for companies out there that they can pick and improve and get new customers, and that's why I think it's important to talk about accessibility and accessibility testing, and that's why I created that video today. So let's jump right into it. So, the definition of accessibility, I read it out. Accessibility is the degree to which something is accessible to all members of society, regardless of physical or mental abilities. It refers to the design of products, devices, services, or environments for people who experience disabilities. It implies that people with disabilities can access websites, products, and services. So, this sounds complicated, but to be honest, it isn't. And I actually don't know why companies are not really going into that direction. But there might be hope and change coming soon. So let's take a look what I mean with that. Why accessibility matters before we dive into more topics. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 1.3 billion people, or 16% of the world population, are living with some sort of impairments. And that's a crazy number, right? I mean, 1.3 billion people on that planet have some sort of impairments, and we leave them out somehow in our product development, in the software testing part, and that's not cool, right? So there should be a change coming. Due to the population growth, the aging with urbanization, this number is constantly increasing. So in the near future, in the next decade, we have even more people with impairments that are left out from digital products, and this is something we need to change. But companies really struggle with the implementation of accessibility. We come to that in a second. But as I said, there's a huge potential for companies lying around that they can just pick up and make a lot of lives easier and make people happy. And every accessibility, or A11Y, is everyone's responsibility. Maybe you think right now, I cannot do anything, you know, I'm just the tester on the team, I cannot do anything. But yes, you can. You can already talk to your product manager or to somebody in the team or the company, saying, hey, look, it would be so great to have some accessibility functionality here or there. Or if we do that in the code base, just this little tiny change, we can already improve lives of millions of people. So step up, we can do something. What types of impairments are around? So we have people with speech and language impairment. We have mobility impairment. We have visual impairment. We have hearing impairment. And we have cognitive impairment. So these are topics that you can find. Topic sounds weird, but these are impairments that, or like disabilities that people might have, right? Some of you, or if you're listening already, some of them have a mix of impairments already. So maybe somebody is not able to listen and cannot move, right? So there's something like that. So there's a mix of everything available. And learning impairment, I missed that as well. So these are impairment types that are out there, and depending on your product, depending on your focus, depending on your product, your service, not all of the impairment types have something to do with your product, and you need to cover them. But you need to check out what you can do in terms of usability, using the product for any kind of these handicaps. So will there be change in 2025? Let's see what I mean with that. In Europe, the EU has called the European Accessibility Act under the Directive 2019/882, and is a landmark EU law which requires some everyday product and services to be accessible for persons with disabilities. Sounds good. Sounds great. Yeah. So the European Accessibility Act will make life easier for at least 87 million people. So almost 1 in 5 Europeans will get a better life, I would not say, but will get help in terms of using digital product and services. Yeah. So what does it mean in detail? Like, what is coming like in 2025? Is there something you as a company has to do already? And what does some everyday product and services mean, right? So, so what are products meant here? So it meant that computers and operating systems have to be accessible. Smartphones and other communication devices. TV equipment related to digital service, TV services. ATMs and payment terminals. E-readers. Ticketing and check-in machines need to be accessible by 2025 within the EU. Services. Phone services, banking services, e-commerce services. So websites, mobile apps, mobile services, ticketing services, so everything that you can do with your phone basically, or in transportation, like for flying, bus, rail, or waterborne transport services, e-books, calls to European emergency numbers, and so forth and so forth. So these are services and products that are covered under the Act, right? So as of June 28th of June 2025, companies must ensure that accessibility is in their product and services. But if you read down in the Accessibility Act under that link, it means like it says that new services and products. So this is not clear for me yet either. What does new services and product mean? Does it mean that only if I really produce is something new from scratch? Or is meant by new that in case I am changing some parts of my application that is now new, need to be accessible, and the rest doesn't need to be accessible? Doesn't make really sense, right? So this is not really clear yet. Yeah. Let's see. EU member states may decide for exceptions, more to come and more time. So this is likely to happen, right? So the EU members, depending on the states, they will negotiate, of course, like if they can postpone that decision, or get more time in implementation, and so forth and so forth. I mean, this is something that we need to find out, right? But the good thing is that whenever I talk to people already in the community or in the industry, that there's movement, and that's good, right? So there are companies getting a bit nervous. They try to understand the law. They try to understand what's going to happen and what do we need to do. And some of them, they are like already investigating, like how many customers do we have with impairments, and so forth and so forth. So that's already a good sign. And micro enterprises, so below 10 employees, are accepted or exempted from that law. So like really small startups, they don't need to be accessible from the day zero. But to be honest, just do it. I mean, if you really start from scratch on a green field, why not adding some accessibility on top of it already in your designs, in your development? I mean, it's much easier to start from day zero, adding these kind of topics, than 2 years later, when you exceed the number of employees, then you have to adapt everything to be accessible. It doesn't make sense. So what are the benefits of having accessibility, an accessible product? You have an increased user experience. But because, to be honest, go out and check some of the websites these days, some e-commerce shops, they are impossible to use. Yeah, it's just like there's so many things you cannot navigate, for example, with a keyboard, or I mean, we all know it. You open a website, boom, the big cookie banner comes on top, and even these kind of things, I checked it out with some accessibility tools, is you cannot get rid of the cookie banner for some websites, and this is already the closed door for people with an handicap, right? So we can only gain from a better user experience, even though we have no impairments. Yeah, you will have an increased reach. I mean, look around, 1.3 billion people on that planet. Of course, you with your product, I mean, it would be great if you reach all those 1.3 billion users or people on the planet with your product, but I mean, your share will be much smaller, and this is something you need to investigate, like what's my potential customer base and how can I get bigger with that. Yeah, you have a better SEO, because I think that also Google and other search engines, they will look out for accessibility measures to have an improved SEO optimization. You improve your compliance with the law, or with standards, accessibility standards. That's cool. And of course, you earn trust, right? I mean, imagine you have like hundreds of thousands more customers now. They will really happy that they can finally use your product. So they will be happy. They will be reliable. They will be loyal to your product, and you will earn trust not only amongst the people with impairment, but also with the community, with the society. So what are the challenges when implementing accessibility? Especially companies fear costs. Yes, whenever I talk to people, it's like always, no, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money to do so. We would like to postpone it, or we need to investigate. And yes, it's lame excuses. I mean, of course, it costs money, right? Nothing comes for free. But I mean, at some point you have to start, and it doesn't need to be like the big bang. We need to do everything at once. Start simple, start slow, start small. Look around what you can do with easy steps, easy things, and then also talk to people. Like, what do you think about it? Do you like it? And so forth and so forth. The lack of knowledge and resources is also something that companies struggle with, because usually they don't have an accessibility expert in their company, in the product environment. That's a problem. Limited resources in terms of, it doesn't mean that you have limited employees to do it, like just they don't have the resources around to actually build a product and a service, right? So they are limited in terms of capacity. Lack of awareness is also something that I have heard. Yeah, companies just, they don't know. There are people with a handicap. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So that's something that I'm already seeing, that the law is changing, right? So people are getting nervous, like, ooh, there's something coming. GDPR, is it another GDPR topic coming around? So the awareness is increasing. That's good. There's some misconceptions and myths. Yeah, we don't have people with impairments amongst our user base. look, they can use it like that and blah blah blah. I've heard it all. And the thing is, when I was once working with a company, and we had to develop a mobile app that needs to be accessible to some sort of criteria. So we got a list of criteria what the app has to pass in terms of accessibility. And I was like, yeah, cool, I have a checklist. I can, do my normal testing and then do some accessibility testing. And I said, okay, I ticked all the boxes. Yes, accessibility implemented and passed. Then we passed it over to some person with who was an accessibility expert, because he has one kind of impairment. And we got a result back, and I was like, what? That's not possible. We failed completely. Because I thought like, hey, this is working. It's here, it's written down, it works perfect. But we as normal people is weird, people without impairments, we don't know how it is to not use a computer with your fingers, for example, just maybe with another input type, or how to navigate only with a voiceover or stuff like that. So we don't know how to do that, right? And that's why you need to get help of experts here. Technological limitations can also be a problem. Maybe companies need to completely revamp their technology stack. This is something that they might have to do, and this is something that they are not, of course, would not like to do. But this is something they have to learn, right? They have a legacy system. Yeah, that's also what I meant with that. So they have an old running system somewhere in the basement, and it's not easy for them to just replace it. But yeah, they have to start at some point, at some level. So what are integration strategies here? What can we do? So first of all, integrate accessibility into the design process. So that's important. Basically, design, discovery process, accessibility should already thought through. Because if you know already like how to use my product with a keyboard or with different input types, you get rid of many design elements that are not useful, that are like animating, videos popping in, something like here flying around, I don't know what not can be done, right? So there's a lot of stuff that is being added in the design phase that is not really needed. And with that, we can get rid of the clutter. Then, of course, education is impossible. Educate your people in the company about accessibility and how to integrate it in design, in development, in testing, in product, in I don't know, whatnot. Yeah, in all kinds of aspects in your company. So education is key here. Then invest in resources. And invest in resources, I mean not in people, I mean invest in your environment in terms of hardware, software that is helpful in order to integrate it into your products, into your services. Yeah, so that's important. And then also leverage existing resources. Do you have already some resources that you can use in order to integrate it into your product? Maybe you have it already, but you don't know. Try and investigate. And oh, excuse me. And then, of course, prioritization is important. Prioritize the things that you would like to do. Don't start big bang. Start small, start simple, and then take it from there. Plan for testing. That's important. Yeah? And with testing, I don't mean like the testing inside the company, which has to be done as well on all levels, from a design, UX, development, and testing point of view, but also plan for testing with real accessibility experts. There are companies out there, and there are people with impairments that you can invite and ask like, hey, what do you think? And so forth and so forth. Because otherwise you will likely to fail. Test and monitor, of course. I mean, that's what's, do the things, test and monitor right in front of how the implementation works. Involve your stakeholders as well. So don't just blindly do it within your team, of course, but I think stakeholders are already involved in that stage, because accessibility is usually a topic that also brings attention to the management side of things, because usually they have to sign it off to really invest in accessibility. And then, of course, being an advocate within your company, outside the company, go out and speak on events about your integration strategies, how you did accessibility topics for your product, for your service, and enlighten others on the things that you have done in order to improve our community as well. And now accessibility testing, now that we talked in general about accessibility and like what is this all about and how to integrate it, what kind of types are there, is first of all, educate yourself. Educate yourself is easy in terms of accessibility, because you can go and read the Web Content Accessibility Guide in the current version 2.1. 2.2 version is already around the corner, so, and everything in there is documented in terms of web accessibility. So if you have some time, if you would like to learn more about it, Google that one or Bing it or whatever search engine you're using, and find out what is behind the Web Content Accessibility Guide. Get to know accessibility tools. So there are a lot of tools out there, like the tools I mentioned here. You will find them also in the video descriptions. So for example, with Wave, you can already analyze your web application in terms of accessibility. If you check the a11ytools.com, you find a lot of tools that are covered or that are covering accessibility. And also iable.com shows you like this really cool layover of an accessibility, what's it called, plugin or whatever. So you can use their accessibility features to change the contrast, to change the font size, and so you can play around and see how you can integrate accessibility features within your product already to help people with impairment to improve it. So that's a really great example. But since the accessibility tools is such a big topic, I would like to create another video on that side to really show you some of the tools hands-on. There are more tools, of course, available on the market. And the video that I have in mind is about open source tools. And I'm not sure if everything is open source, but tools that you can really easily use in your daily life as a software tester to improve the life of people with impairments. Yeah. So stay tuned for more videos, and with that's the video for today about accessibility and why it's important. And before you switch off, please leave me a comment and let me know, like, what are you doing in your company in terms of accessibility testing, and how are you testing against those criteria. I would love to see that in the comments, and as always, leave a thumbs up, leave a subscription if you like the video. Thank you, bye bye, and see you next time.